So good to see you again.
Good to see you, Ethan, and welcome to
The third episode of Ethan
and Andy.
Go to
Go to
City.
City. And I really went to City.
I know, that's great.
Yeah, for game two. We'll get to that in a second
Yeah,
because should we just break this down? We're 3 games in at this point. Should we just break down what your thoughts are, what you saw over those 3 games?
I think that makes sense. Game one, opening day, just watching it on TV, even though the weather was beautiful. Things seemed to go very well for the Mets. We chased Paul Skeens in the first inning,
As unlikely a thing to happen as you can imagine.
and Peralta did well, though then you look at his line and it's not that great, but it seemed like looking at him, it looked like he was doing very well.
Yeah, Lau was like the thorn in his side.
Yeah,
Otherwise, he did very well. Take that guy out of the lineup.
it's true.
And he did very, very well. So, yeah, no, it was a very encouraging first game. It was exciting to see Skeens hooked out of after 2/3 of an inning. I mean, like I said, as unlikely as you can imagine. Really set the tone for an exciting weekend. It slowed from there.
Exactly. And there was clutch hitting, and even though they gave up a number of runs when we needed something, the hitters got it done on that first game.
Yep, and the talk obviously of that first game was Luis Robert Jr.'s at bat in that first inning, a 10 pitch walk. This is a guy who is known to chase, so that was very encouraging to see. And I think even as we sit here today, I think he's batting 500 or something crazy like that. So he's been a revelation, which is great. It was nice to see Carson Bench go deep, and that Alvarez home run was a shot.
My
So,
God.
yeah, so those were yeah, a lot of encouraging signs in game one. What for you was the highlight?
It was either Luis Robert, that 10 pitch at bat, or Carson Bench getting his first home run. I mean, because things like that are always just fun to see.
Yeah, it's nice to see his enthusiasm running the bases, and he jumped a couple of times.
Yeah.
That was very sweet to see. Yeah, it was a great game all around.
It
Yeah.
was funny. There was one thing where the wind was a little strange, especially in the first couple of innings. And there was an interview with Mendoza after, and he's asked how Peralta did. And he said, "Well, except for those two mistakes." And then Peralta got interviewed. He said, "I didn't think the first one was a mistake. It was just the wind just blew it out because it almost like Ben just seemed very close to catching that, and then it just at the very end just went over the fence."
Well, as I admitted to you before we started rolling, somehow I got the first pitch time screwed up, and I missed the entire first inning, top of the first inning anyway. So I didn't see that home run. But everything I've heard is that it was kind of a wall scraper.
Yeah.
Lau's second home run was a no doubt. There was another at bat that people have talked about, actually, that I think was not as encouraging as it looked like on its face, and that was when Bichette had a 13 pitch at bat. And why I think I'm obviously taking any pitcher 13 pitches is beneficial to the rest of the lineup. But he's probably swung at 5 pitches that would have been ball four in those 13, and then he ended up striking out at the end. It was encouraging to see him stay in the bat that long, but I thought he made some odd swing choices in that at bat too.
Yeah.
So
Especially for somebody who supposedly one of his best skills is not striking out and hitting in
right,
situations where
right.
people are on base.
He's obviously scuffling. It was funny. I read an article before opening day about how he's embracing the pressure of New York and how clutch he is. And I read that and I thought, well, there's a New York Mets kiss of death if ever I've seen one. Because it's people come to this city, people come to this team, and they struggle sometimes. Lindor struggled, Beltran struggled when he first got here. I mean, it goes back. So you got to be a little bit careful about how you frame a new player coming in, even if their pedigree is wonderful.
Yeah, and of course Lindor has barely had a hit in. So
he got 2 hits yesterday.
That's right. Okay, but he started off slow, and he usually starts off slow, so that just happens sometimes.
Right. He's worked out some walks though. I mean, so that's good. He is getting on base. I think Soto hasn't gone yard yet, but I think he's looked really good. I think there's a lot of encouraging things out there. Richard Lovelady is not one of them.
I know. I think he will not be long for this world.
Yeah, that's my guess too.
Yeah.
Poor Mr. Lovelady.
I know. But then he may come back again because he came back 3 times last season.
Right. Right. He's got 9 lives at least, for sure.
All right. Well, then on the second game on Saturday, you were there.
I was there.
Tell first-hand impressions.
Okay, my first-hand impressions start with baseball's not meant to be played in 42-degree temperatures with 10-mile-an-hour, 15-mile-an-hour winds. It was brutal. I was layered up and still miserable. And let me tell you, if they had lost that game in 11 innings after I sat through that, I I would be one unhappy camper. But at the end of the day, what a thrilling way to end the game. That walk-off three-run homer. Again, Robert, I think a lot of people thought this guy was going to be a bum on offense. His defense makes his floor kind of high because he's so good in the field. But I mean, there's been nothing to not like about him, and it was so much fun to cheer him after that home run, and the stadium absolutely erupted. What was left of it, a lot of people, I will say, streamed out of there after the ninth. But it's always great to be in the ballpark. I mean, it's always great. What were your impressions?
I didn't see the entire game, but Peterson seemed to do very well,
Mm,
and that was encouraging. And it is the first couple of games of the season. None of the pitchers have, or I guess Peterson went a little further than five, but you know, I guess five is better than 4 innings, which is what happened a lot last year.
right. Yeah, I think, I mean, in all categories, it's way too soon to be drawing any conclusions about anybody. I don't think Bichette's going to strike out 8 out of every 14 at bats going forward. Um, I don't think Robert's going to hit 500 for the season, and I don't think that pitchers are only going to be limited to five innings. And we saw how absolutely detrimental that was last year. So let's hope that that's. I mean, I'm very confident it's just first start kind of
Yeah.
situation. But yeah, it was funny because you sit there in the chilling weather like that, and you think, well, it's got to be hard to pitch in this kind of these kind of conditions, and then nobody's really getting any hits. You're like, well, it's kind of gonna be hard to hit in these conditions. So it's just not meant to be played like that. But that's what happens when you start in March.
I don't know. April 1st should, at the very earliest, should be the opening day. It's
Yeah, it's interesting. Like Jackie Robinson Day is celebrated on April 15th because
Mhm.
that's the day he broke the color barrier in 1947. And it was the first game of the season. April 15th, that's mid-April
Mhm.
is when they used to start, and now we're starting in late March. It's a big difference in the Northeast.
Yeah. Any other impressions of City Field going for the first time this season?
It is what it always has
Mhm.
been. I don't know if we talked about this in one of the previous podcasts or we've just talked about it. I loved Shea Stadium. I know everybody thought it was a dump, but it was kind of my dump.
Mhm.
And obviously, City is a much nicer field and a much nicer stadium, even though it's been around for what, 17 years now, 16 years, what is it, 18 years, I
Mm.
can't even remember. But it I don't know, it still doesn't quite feel like home to me in the way Shea Stadium did. And it might never, because
Yeah.
I was going to Shea since I was a little kid, so there's a familiarity that was almost ingrown. So
Yeah.
but it's a good stadium. It's I didn't notice anything radically different this year over last year. So
Yeah. No, I feel the same way. I think the only thing about City Field that I found is that even the worst seat in City
mm,
Field is still pretty good.
yeah,
That
that's
was
true.
that was well designed.
Have you sat in the worst seat at City Field?
Close to it. There were a couple of games where I got a ticket at the last minute and it was sold out, so it was pretty
Yeah,
far off.
yeah, that's true. The one thing they do, which I think is really weird, I mean, I appreciate the effort, but the ushers, if you like go to get some food or you
Mm.
go to the bathroom and you're coming back down, the ushers stop you from going down to your seat until the batter is out or there's a break in the action. But meanwhile, everybody down who's already in the
Mhm.
in the seats are getting up and walking around. It's meaningless, and so there's a cluster of people at the top of the stairs waiting to get to their seats, and I just don't understand it. It's not, it's quicker to just walk. Let us go.
Yeah.
But whatever. I mean,
Mhm.
that happened last year too. It's not a new thing.
Again, as we said, this is far too early to give any real indications of how the season's going. But despite the second game ending in a heroic fashion, neither team hit for almost the entire game.
Correct. Yeah, and
So,
I do think the weather has to
yeah,
have played a role in that.
yeah,
But maybe not. I mean, it was
mhm,
a low scoring game yesterday too.
right.
Sunday's game. The other thing that we have to take with a grain of salt, we took 2 of 3, and that's great. But this is Pittsburgh Pirates. Now they're not. They might be a little better than they have been in the
Hmm.
past. They did some investing in their offense. But this is not. We're not playing the Los Angeles Dodgers here,
No,
right? This is and they took us to extra innings two of the 3 games. So again, way too early to be drawing conclusions. But I would have liked to have seen them won with a little bit more authority.
I agree. Well, then I guess that takes us to game three.
Yesterday's
Yeah,
very frustrating loss.
right. Where Nolan McLean pitched 5 innings and did well.
Shaky at first,
Yeah.
walked the first two batters.
But, growing pains for still a very young pitcher. And we think he's going to be an ace, but, this is still only his 12th major league start,
Something.
like that.
I read this morning that with his, would he throw 5 innings on Sunday? That his 5 innings has finally taken him officially out of prospect status. So like that's how close he was to no longer having rookie status last year, but he still does. So yeah, I mean, I was a little concerned when he walked the first two batters he faced, but he seemed to buckle down. And I listened to the game. I didn't watch it, so I didn't really see the movement of his pitches. But obviously, he was getting results, so that's great.
And 2 runs over 5 innings is a decent outing. And I think for all of this is you hope as the weather gets warmer that the pitchers will go further into the games this year.
I agree. I also think that we have to remember Nolan McLean came up and kind of set the world on fire. That's a really high bar he set for himself, and I think he's a terrific pitcher, and his stuff is amazing. But I don't think we can expect him to have the same level of ERA that he had over a small sample last year. And so I hope people are patient. Like even if he has a 3.5 ERA, that's really good. And I hope people aren't disappointed by that, right? Because he, like you said, he's still the young pitcher. He's still figuring this out.
And thank God that they got Peralta or with somebody like him, because that does take the pressure off. If McLean was supposed to be the number one starter, it just would have, things could spiral very quickly.
That's a lot of pressure in New York on a team that's expected to go far to put on the shoulders of a rookie. There's no doubt about that. I was surprised that it was Peterson starting game 2 rather than I thought McLean would start game 2. And if not, McLean, Holmes or somebody, because Peterson really faltered at the end of last year. So I thought that was an interesting choice. He did fine.
I think he just got exhausted last year. I mean, because it was sudden, but he was terrific for the first half. So maybe they figured they'll just try him for the first half. And unlike last year, they have a lot of depth who could come up. And so like if Peterson falters again, Jonah Tong will probably be ready by mid-July.
Sure. And then Kristen Scott's down there.
Right.
Tobias Myers can come out of the bullpen and become a starter.
Right. Oh, yeah.
And you've also got Manaeus relieving. So you're right. You got plenty of depth.
And Myers did very well. It was the first game, right? He did like two or three
innings and gave up 1 run, I think. Yeah. It was great. I was a little concerned about the bullpen management, and they didn't have great options last year, especially later in the year. But one of the knocks on Mendoza is his bullpen strategy, and to see Lovelady at the end of both games when the game was on the line, that seems a little like maybe not Saturday's game, because I think there's a problem with how you're working the bullpen. If Lovelady's on the mound for both last innings, both extra inning games, that something went awry there, I think. Right. And Myers pitched 3 innings, but he did it on Thursday, so you think you should be able to have pitched an inning yesterday. I don't know. What do I know?
Yeah, no, that would seem to make sense.
We're off to St. Louis next. I know nothing about the Cardinals except for Newt Barr is on the disabled list, or I'm sorry, on the injured list. Yeah. But that's I don't really know that team very well.
No, I know. I think they made a lot of changes, and I think they're supposed to be better than they were last year. But
it's interesting because when we were growing up, you knew everything about the Cardinals because they were such rivals. But yeah, I mean, so 3 games in, I would have loved to have been 3-0. No, nobody's going to complain about 2-1. That's what team averaged 2 wins out of every 3 on the New York Mets? The 1986 Mets. They were 108 and 54. That's winning 2 out of every 3. So I'll take that. Exactly. I'll take a 108 win season again.
Well, I guess we could talk briefly about Lindor running home in the.
We should talk about that. Yeah. So yes, Lindor as the tying run in the 10th inning gets thrown out at the plate. Again, I was listening, not watching, so I didn't see it. But what were your impressions?
Well, the main thing is that there were no outs.
Correct.
It's like if there were 1 or 2 outs, or then you just have to go for it, maybe. But there were no outs. He should have just held at third.
I'm not against being aggressive at third and trying to score people, but in that situation, if he scores, it's tied. That's great. But if he doesn't score, you got the tying run on third and the winning run on second, and nobody out.
Mm-hmm.
So the likelihood with your numbers 3, 4, and 5 coming up that at least one of those runs isn't going to score seems slim. I think you're going to score that run. But getting him thrown out, now the tying run's on second with one out. Whole different scenario. And as we saw, Soto got moved over to third, but one out too late.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I think that was a really questionable call. I've seen some people defend it, saying it took a perfect set of plays by the Pirates to throw him out. But you know what? They're Major League Baseball players. Sometimes
Exactly.
they do that, and I don't think it was worth losing a runner at third over, not with nobody out. I agree.
Hopefully they won't make too many mistakes like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's new coach. I don't even know who the third base coach is right now. So it'll be interesting to see how he does. Like I said, be aggressive, fine, but not in that situation. Just not with 3, 4, and 5 coming up. I mean, Robert has been on base constantly. Bichette obviously has not been doing great, but he's got a great reputation. But if you had the ground out that Bichette had that moved Soto over to third, it might still have moved Soto over third and scored Lindor with a tying run, um, and then Polanco's long fly ball to right would have scored the run from third, and they would have won.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, it's not going to unfold the same way with different situation, but it just goes to show you they could have scored both those runs without a hit.
Right. And of course, it also goes to show you that they could have scored anytime during that game.
A lot of people left on base. Yeah.
Which was supposedly something that they were trying to take care of in the off season.
Right. I mean, again,
it's
small sample size caveat.
Yeah.
Like even a team that's great at that is going to have their moments where they don't get it done. So, you know, I don't know. We've learned a lot these first 3 games, but we have learned that when Robert is on, he's electric, and we've learned that you know, 2 out of 3 is better than 0 out of 3 or 1 out of 3.
Well, yeah, you know, and if they take 2 out of 3 for St. Louis, and then I forget who was after that. San Francisco, yeah, exactly. And 2 out of 3 from them, then suddenly, you know, they're 6 and 3. I'll live with that.
Yeah, absolutely. I looked at after the second Yankee. I'm sorry, I said Yankees on a Mets podcast, but after the second game, the Yankees and the Giants, I looked at the box score, and only 3 members of the Giants after that game had a batting average, which means 6 guys didn't have a hit over 2 games. That's a lot.
Yeah.
So, again, early in the season, but it was stark.
And also, like, I actually was reading a little bit of. Did you ever read that book, The Bad Guys One, about '86?
Oh, I don't think I ever read that one. Who wrote that one?
Jeff Pearlman.
Oh, right. No, I don't think I read it.
It's really good. But the '86 Mets started off 2 and 3.
That's right.
Which is fine.
2 and 3, but then they were like, I think 16 and 8 by 24 or something like that.
Yeah.
Or 24. They were 24 and 4 at one point. So yeah, so they went 21 and 1. That's right. Yeah. So yeah, but that's a good example. Like if Mets had lost to the first 3 instead of, we'd all be up in arms like this same old fucking Mets.
And they lost to the Pirates.
Right.
Yeah.
But meanwhile, yeah, the '86 Mets were. You're right. Yeah, that's right. That was a fun year. God, that was a fun year.
I know.
You know what's interesting? Like, I look at Dodger fans, and I'm like, what's really left to root for? Like, it's just so automatic. And the '86 Mets had that kind of season where they just like ran the table, right? Struggled a little in the postseason, obviously, but the difference is they were almost there in '85, and then they weren't quite there in '87. So it was an island, but like. When year after year after year, same thing with like the '90s Yankees. Like at a certain point, what are you rooting for? The sun to rise? You know what I mean? It happens all the time.
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, they also think, you know, just a few small changes there, and they could have won '85 through '88.
They could have,
and I would have been fine with that.
Yes, yeah. Look, I'm not complaining, but there's something about the fight that's exciting too. Yeah, '87. They just, if you remember, they got injured, decimated by their pitching staff. Just got decimated.
And Gooden was in rehab for the beginning.
Oh, that's right. That was '87, right? And then in '88, it was that stupid home run Gooden gave up to Mike Scioscia.
I know.
That changed everything.
Did Gooden ever win a postseason game?
I don't know the answer to that. I know Seaver wasn't great in the
Yeah.
postseason either. Career postseason stats: 0-4 with a 3.97 ERA. Yeah, 0-4, never did. Good call.
Well, I think that's it for this episode. Thanks again for listening to Ethan
And Andy,
Go to City. See you next time.